Dear viewers, my name is Estella Tegeka Felicity, your host today. Welcome to Breaking the Law, a show where we break down the law to bite-sized pieces to help you understand it better. Our vision is a society that is knowledgeable about the law that governs it, and our mission is to promote knowledge of the law in order to promote human rights, peace, order, and development. Last time we talked about the Constitution and constitutionalism. Today we shall talk about the rule of law. What is it? Who does it apply to? When does it apply? In studio with me are two guests. I will allow them to introduce themselves. You are welcome.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Ruhweza. I'm a lawyer by practice and calling, I presume. I am a lecturer at the School of Law, Makerere University, where among the other subjects that I teach is constitutional law and history, and I'm always honored to be here.
Thank you very much for coming.
My name is Owen Michael. I work with Kaganzi and Company Advocates. I'm also a lawyer by profession. And it's really interesting because I have the honor of sitting next to my former lecturer way back when.
Not very many years ago. We are still young, you know.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, honored to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Dr. Ruhweza actually taught me constitutional law at the School of Law at Makerere University. And so we are in great company. I'll start with Michael.
Yes.
May you please help us define what the rule of law is?
Well, the rule of law has no definite definition, but what it is that a person, that no man is above the law. Everybody is subject to the law, whether it be the government, the president, from the president to the lowest person. Everybody is subject to the law. What does that mean? It means if you are supposed to follow the law, and if you break the law, you can be punished under the law. You cannot act arbitrarily on your own.
All right. We shall be talking about that a little more in relation to the president, especially later on in the show. But Dr. Ruhweza, given what he has said, the rule of law is not easily, doesn't have a single definition, yes? So what are those things that we can look out to determine whether there is rule of law in a society?
I guess because you say that this is supposed to help people appreciate the bit sizes of the law,
yes.
I'll start with an example without not necessarily going to your question immediately, that we all need water. We all drink water. We cannot survive without water. So however rich or poor, strong or weak you are, water is an essential commodity to our bodies. And our bodies, they say, are about 70 or 80% water. So it is with the law that we all live in a society that is governed by rules and regulations. You said last week you discussed constitutionalism. And the essence behind constitutionalism is that people have agreed to be governed and ruled and regulated in a certain way. At the center of that is the fact that the law applies to what we say all and sundry. It applies to the officers and the gentlemen. It applies to officers and men. So the first tenet of the law is equal application of the law to everybody. So you don't say that I come from a specific region or I prefer to eat matoke than maybe millet, therefore the law shall not apply to me. If you're in traffic, everybody is supposed to drive on the left-hand side, right? You can't say that I don't feel like doing that. The time you do that, immediately you are in breach of the law.
So is driving on the left-hand side of the road a matter of law?
It is, because you have the Traffic and Road Safety Act that regulates all human activity. Actually, most human activity is regulated by the law. There are some legal regimes under which we operate. So we, therefore, are looking at a situation of equal application, equal observance of the law, before we talk about anything else. And therefore, when someone says the rule of law, at the back of my mind, at the back of our minds, we should be thinking, does the law apply to all of us equally? Because then we are talking about a democratic society. Then we are talking about a society that is governed by rules and regulations. The second thing in there is arbitrariness. By arbitrariness, I mean that you do not decide to do as you so please. Okay? Just because you don't feel like living with certain people in your neighborhood. You can't just pick up a gun and shoot all the women because you just don't like them. Just because you are chairperson of LC5, you can't just pass any regulations you feel like, because you are governed by certain rules and regulations. So I guess maybe it's better for us to say there is a difference between rule of law and then rule by law. Because rule by law means that I will make certain regulations that support what I prefer, what I want. So those regulations do not affect me, they affect others. So rule by law is creating legal regimes, normative orders that support a specific individual and not others. Now, in that situation of rule by law, of passing laws that advantage one leader or advantage one set of people as opposed to the other, you can't be saying that you're living in a society where there is equal application, equal respect and observance of the law. Yes.
Dr. Reheza, before you go ahead on that point, just to help us understand, the Constitution provides for affirmative action for marginalized groups,
Yes.
For example, women.
Yes.
So in that way, the law is trying to create a position of favor for women. Just, you know, looking at it in the simplest terms. Is that really rule by law in this case? Because I think many people welcomed this and were happy about it.
Yeah.
So did it cross over to rule by law? Are we still under rule of law?
No, it's still within rule of law, and I'll explain it this way. The beauty about this Constitution is that it has a preamble, right? And the preamble sets the stage of what people were thinking about when they came up with this Constitution. So it says in the preamble, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability. And then it goes on to give a background of where we have come from to be able to arrive at this, let me call it this social contract, this agreement. So we recognize, I'll just read this part that says, committed to building a better future by establishing a socio-economic and political order through a popular and durable national constitution based on the principles of unity, peace, equality, democracy, freedom, social justice, and progress. Now, there immediately you realize that the makers of this constitution knew the status quo that was on the ground, that women were marginalized, that persons living with disabilities were being cut off, and therefore they made specific interventions like our Article 33 that speaks to assisting women, all right, the rights of women and reaffirming them. 34, the rights of children and reaffirming them. And then establishing a way in which women should be supported because of your uniqueness as women, because of the challenges that you were going through, you could not be seen to be on the same equal playing field as men. And because of those interventions, women are able to go to school. Women are able to have a chance to go to the universities. In those days, some of the schools, once a girl would have a baby, that would be the end of her academic journey. But now those specific interventions are being made. Why? Because the law has specifically provided for that. And the law is based on what we say we are resolving a specific objective, or what you say, what is the evil behind this which is being addressed. So in my view, I do not think it is ruled by law in that situation. We have already agreed as a people, represented by our constituent assembly representatives, to set that stage. And I think all well-meaning people in the society know that this was aimed at a specific, at addressing specific challenges,
wrongs.
Which I think, specific wrongs, thank you, which I think has, to a large extent, tried to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I can jump in a little.
Yes, please, Michael.
Well, rule of law and rule by law are a very interesting concept. Now, when you see where the idea of rule of law came from, you get to understand the whole difference between the two. Now, back in that day, in a continent far, far away, also known as England, yeah, in Europe, but that specific country, England, you had they had their nobles, which we also had here. We had our kings and we had the local people. Now, people ruled by what was called divine right.
Yeah.
Now, if you are to look at their mythology, apparently a lady on a lake threw a sword at King Arthur. He got it, meaning he was given the right to rule by God. And that is how it was for a long time. But so the king was right. He could make laws that would affect everybody else, but not him.
Okay.
But then over time, the thinking started to change. Why should he make laws that affect us? Why can't we make a law that affects everybody and it applies equally? So now the king used to rule by law.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a rule by law. He makes a rule, it applies. If he doesn't like you, he makes a law banishing you out of his kingdom.
All right. Hold it right there. We shall pick it up from there. We'll take a short break, but we shall be right back to continue this discussion.
Okay.